Welcome to ParadoxWalk podcast, specializing in paranormal activity, UFOs, anything glitchy, completely out of the ordinary. So today's episode, I'm going to be going over something that's a little freaky, and it's the phenomenon of people not remembering things that's happened in their childhood. And what they're saying is these people are claiming that they don't think it has anything to do with like big trauma or abuse or something like that. We'll be going over a couple ideas of time dilation, at least one instance of that. For the memory thing, for these people not remembering, you find story after story of this stuff, and I'm going to just get right into it. If I can't even read it all, and it is freaky. If you look this up, if you like search these things, like these keywords, you'll come across even like a secondary phenomenon of people trying to tell people that this is normal. And what these people are describing is not just like, a few normal things, like I forgot like a few days out of like my second grade class and I'm 30 years old. They're saying I have absolutely no idea what I did after school, and I only remember a handful of moments in my classroom in elementary school. Okay, I'm just going to give you like an example, but I can name every single elementary school teacher I had and a good portion of my middle school teachers and high school teachers. Of course, I can't name every single person, but I can name every single elementary school. I can name my first grade teacher, kindergarten teacher, second grade teacher, third grade teacher, all the way up until, in middle school, and at least in the United States, they start sending you to different classrooms like every hour or every 45 minutes. Of course, I'm not going to remember every single one of those, but I can remember a good portion of them. I can tell you what I did after school, who I hung out with, what I did. This is not normal. So there's like these websites saying, oh yeah, it's normal. Yeah, once you get to your like 20s or 30s, it's normal just to forget every single thing you did after school. No way. That is not normal. Well, why would there be like two things like that? Here's some other quotes. Like, multiple people have asked, but I didn't do any drugs. I only had one mild injury and it wasn't a concussion. I'm not diagnosed with ADHD. I don't know what hyperactivity would have to do with not remembering. What the heck? And then there's person after person that not only are agreeing with them, but trying to tell people that this is a normal thing. Like, oh yeah, it's just normal. No, it's not normal. Man, I had a friend that got hit by a car and he remembers everything that we did from high school. I played football with people that get hit and stuff, and I mean, what's going on here? And it's not just a few people. There's like a whole bunch of these. I'm 14 years old. I have a hard time remembering things. This one says, I really only remember bad things that happened, and I'm not doing well. Like, what the heck? I think mostly because I'm not connected with any of my childhood friends. Here's another one. Same thing for me. It's always weird to hear other people talk about their childhood in so much detail. This is getting scary. This one guy was writing, like, the guy was like saying, my wife thinks I'm some sort of wizard because I can tell her all these things from my childhood. Growing up, she can't remember anything. This is freaky to me. You look into some weird stuff and you're like, oh yeah, that's scary. But this, I don't know, something about people like having their memories deleted or something is like, I don't know, to me that's scarier than any paranormal research or UFOs or cryptids. Because that's like, I don't know, like the memories are getting close to like the heart and soul of a human being. But what do you guys think about this? Yeah, give me some insight, because, a psych person would say, yeah, they all have trauma. All these people have trauma. A lot of them are saying that they don't have trauma, that they don't have head trauma, and they don't have, like, they weren't abused or anything. There's one saying, just turning 40 and I'm here. Well, first of all, they use the word here as like listening here, to say I'm here, like HERE, like a placement here, to say that this has been my whole life and I don't see it changing. I think it's a gift, to be honest. Living in the moment is one of the hardest things for most people to ever achieve. Oh my God, that's like the person that tells me that he was playing music with me at this job, and he was saying it's better for people not to learn to read and write music, because then they just play from the heart. That's a way to make somebody make themselves feel better. You can read and write music and still play from the heart. So you can still live in the moment and not delete your entire childhood. It doesn't take like a doctorate in psychology to evaluate these comments. These This is so sad. I don't even know what to say about all this. I think I said everything I had to say. A couple ideas of time dilation, at least one instance of that. I'll read a report of that. Very interesting one that happened in Russia. This was posted a few years ago. So this is a quote, "I'm a French language teacher in Russia, an expat, and due to that, I should travel at least once a year to Moscow for documents, embassy, bureaucracy. And because I live in a city that's 2,000 kilometers far away from Moscow, I use the planes each and every time." Well, now let's jump to the fun part. The time zone in Moscow is -2 hours. I flew to Moscow with my wife and landed safely. I went to the embassy at 9 a.m. and did my things, and by 10 a.m. I'm already finished. Now we have a whole day to visit Moscow before our flight back, which will be at 11 p.m. First we visited Lenin Library, the undergrounds, Kremlin Gardens, the cathedral, the Red Square by foot. And when I looked at the time, I was shocked. It's 11 a.m., which means this whole excursion took 1 hour. And I was so sure it took more because, for those who don't know, Moscow is a gigantic city, and we move between places by feet. No taxi, no bus, just by feet. I thought that it's just because of the time zone difference, and I felt a little tired after the flight. But no, my watch and phone were automatically updated when we got to Moscow, so we decided to find a place to eat, and we were looking here and there, and then we found a good spot. And we settled, took lunch, took a tour around the malls and commercial centers, bought souvenirs, took coffee and a few cigarettes, and we look at my phone and WTF, it's 11:30. Just 30 minutes gone? My wife noticed it too, and we felt a little weird. We were already tired walking around places, and the time is literally not moving or moving slowly. I suggested to just sit in the open air cafe and waste some time until 7 p.m. and go back to the airport. We sat down and took my fifth or sixth coffee that day and talked to my wife about anything and everything. Time goes and felt that we minimum sat for 2 hours, but no, it was only 12, and I lost it. And not to make the text long and boring, we kept moving between cafes and museums on this infinite day, and finally when it hit 7 p.m., I said finally, for God's sake, it really felt like forever. And when I checked my steps counter, it was 400% plus than my expected number. We walked around 15 kilometers around the city center, and then I understood that something was unusual about that travel, because when I got back to my city, the time was running like usual. I could feel how the time was going fast enough then in Moscow. So I kind of made a little post on this. So I don't know if anybody's interested. I write on Reddit under the username that's just the same as my podcast, ParadoxWalk. I was thinking of like military ideas. I never understood. So when I was in school, they always told us these things like Russia's economy is only the size of Italy. Well, if that's true, then how can they have like such a massive military arsenal? The United States has, at least what they tell us, like, I mean, what are these all lies? Like, we have like triple the budget for military than any other country on the face of the earth. The other thing was that the Soviet Union broke apart in, the 90s or something? They made it sound like when we were in school, it was all but gone. And then all of a sudden, it's the year 2020. Remember 2020, 2021? And now it's like all this, we're supposed to be scared of that again? Like, you telling me like they couldn't take care of that with the strongest, supposedly, military on the face of the earth? So what if, just like, I don't know, just a thought experiment, what if you had a country that had the economy the size of Italy, but they could get quadruple the things done in a day than everybody else could? What if like that would make sense for all those like presidents when they go into office, they come out looking like 20 years older than when they went in, even though it was only 4 years. And what if this man's experience was just because he was like in the outskirts of this like time dilation? What if in the center of it, like the military section of it, what if they're doing like 10 times the things in a day or 20 times the things in a day, and only the people in the city, like in the cafes, they only experience like the side effects of that? Couldn't the military just totally, build itself up like that? So, yeah, it's like a notorious thing that all these world leaders, like once they get into office, they just come back out with like super gray hair and they look like they aged like 30 years. You can see like memes about that. What happens when someone becomes president? So the show Mr. Robot, so I'm not a military guy, but maybe someone with some experience could point out some ideas. Like if I'm like super off base here, just let me know. These machines, if they exist, like these time dilations things, couldn't this account for some of these like side effects that we see, like glitches in the matrix, time anomalies? The show Mr. Robot presented the idea that nuclear power plants, they were having like weird time machines beneath them. It wasn't exactly maybe a time machine, but it was like something like it. It was in the show. I think it was a particle accelerator, but it did some like reset thing, like almost like a weird, hard to explain, but like it was almost like they were flip-flopping dimensions with this thing. But yeah, the point of it is that the nuclear power plant in the show was powering that whole system, and it just makes you think like maybe that's kind of what they are, you know. And the powering of the city was mainly like a facade. So if you watch like the Chernobyl HBO thing, Chernobyl, the opening sequence, the power plant director, he's like going wild trying to get this huge number for an output for this supposed test. If it was just a test, like he was really risking everybody's safety in the process. His actions would make more sense if the power plant had a way more important purpose than just keeping everybody's like TVs and ovens going, their light bulbs running. It sounds wild, but that would explain like a lot of things. So it would explain why nuclear power plants are, like with all these crazy safety things that are being used, and it would explain like if they're really powering all these like time shifts and stuff. It would explain all these people like aging super fast. It would explain this guy's experience. It would also explain Russia using the literal money of the country of Italy being toe to toe with the United States, coming back from nothing, right? It's just three things. Like, if it was like one thing or two things, I wouldn't think much of it, but three things like that kind of makes me think like these things kind of go hand in hand. But anyways, I'm going to try to keep this under the time period that, I don't know, I'm going to do a few under 15 minutes. I have not only a music project I'm working on that I'm having a lot of glitches with, but I also have a piano concert coming up in March of 2023. So I hope everybody's doing good out there. Thanks for listening to the podcast. You can check it out on even Pandora now. It's on Pandora. Just look for ParadoxWalk podcast. Spotify. Most streaming services have it now. Amazon, everywhere. Just check it out. I also load to BitChute and YouTube forever. How long YouTube lasts, we'll see. But they seem to be MySpacing themselves to death, or MTVing themselves to death, or Daily Motioning themselves to death, however you want to look at it. But I hope everybody's doing good out there. Remember to copy the RSS feed. My Patreon is patreon.com/ParadoxWalk, and the music is Downbeat88. All right, I hope everybody's doing good. Have a good day.